Hardcore Fitness, what's up? So for those of you that I haven't met, my name's Larry Nolan. I'm the founder of Hardcore Fitness, and this is going to be your intro to ketogenic dieting. So before I go into the basics of the keto diet, the premise of it, and how we are implementing it, I want to say that first off, the nutrition programs that we end up suggesting are always going to be something that's clinically researched, peer-reviewed, published, something that has sound knowledge behind it that's been applied and proven. And it's also going to be something that we've personally done ourselves. So I'm a big advocate in running through it myself, practice what you preach, make sure that it's something that doesn't just look good on paper, but that actually applies before you end up putting clients onto that type of program. So for myself, I really prefer to do most of my meals clean a lot of the time, and then cheat on the weekends. I like to do more of a carb cycling approach so that I have higher carbs on certain days. So those methods have been used for a long time. Very proven methods. So doing a ketogenic diet is something that I normally wouldn't want to do because on low carb, I don't feel great. So for me, I just never really considered doing it. And when the science came out on it, I decided to give it a go, was pretty skeptical on how I would personally feel, even though the knowledge was there and it was applied properly. And I was really surprised. I actually felt pretty freaking good. And I realized that on low carbohydrate, my body is using glucose as energy, that little bit of carbs, and that little bit of energy did not feel great. But when I went into ketosis and my body was using those ketones, I actually felt pretty darn good. So that's why we ended up suggesting it to you guys. Is not only has it had a lot of research and a lot of great findings, but also we've done it ourselves, and I had great results and felt pretty good. So I think that you guys could possibly have that same effect. Now, before I go into it, the other thing that I wanted to note is the way that we stand behind dietetics or overall eating and nutrition and its application is there is no one size fits all. There is no this approach is the approach. If you run into a coach, a nutritionist, a registered dietitian that believes that, you may want to encourage them to do more research or work with more individuals, because what I have found is just because it works for me doesn't mean it's going to work for somebody else. And that's why we end up running these programs. Is some of you guys are going to do this and you are going to freaking love it. You guys are going to say, I can't believe that I haven't, found this years ago and I feel great. And some of you guys may do it and say, this isn't a good fit for me. But the goal for us is to find great nutritional information and great applications, introduce them, guide you guys through them, and try to help each one of you guys as an individual find what works best for you. So if you guys are going into this thinking this is the tell-all, my best friend did it and said this is the best thing that's ever happened to them, it's great that you're going in with an optimistic mindset, but don't think that it has to be the best fit for you just because somebody else liked it. So go into it, see how you feel, and we're hoping that some of you guys find a great fit. If not, there are many other nutritional avenues that one of the trainers at the gym can help coach you guys with if you don't find success with keto. Okay, so I took a few notes. Anyone that's ever been to any of my workshops knows that that's pretty rare. I normally just am long-winded and speak, but I was trying to make this not too long. It's already 3.5 minutes, so I don't know how successful I'll be with that. But I wanted to hit on some basics, get you guys introduced to this. So the first thing that people say is, what is keto? Ketogenic dieting is essentially just a manipulation of macronutrients, which are proteins, fats, and carbs, and the values in which you consume them. So a ketogenic diet is usually 70 to 75% fats. You're going to get somewhere between 5 to 10% are going to come from carbohydrates, and then the balance, depending on where those two are, the balance comes from protein. So it is a high fat, adequate or moderate protein, low carbohydrate diet. So once you introduce that to people, they say, isn't fat bad? Won't fat make me fat? Isn't eating a lot of fat unhealthy? And that's been the huge misconception that's been proven now, which kind of leads me into the next point. Is when people state that, the reason that we do this is because it's been proven that that's not accurate. For many years, the doctors would tell you if you had high blood pressure, high cholesterol, stop eating steak, stop eating fats. And now Johns Hopkins University is the one who really headed this up and got a lot of publicity behind the ketogenic dieting. But there's been a lot of other people before and many more since that have done a lot of research, and it's been pretty astounding. They at Johns Hopkins, they actually did theirs on adolescent epilepsy, and they put these kids that were on a bunch of different medications on this nutritional approach and had these groundbreaking results. These kids were off medication, seizure free, and it blew people away. They ended up getting an entire department developed just around ketogenic dieting. So Johns Hopkins still has this institution that just is studying the valuable approaches that ketogenic dieting can provide in overall health. They've done diabetes. They did a study on obesity with, again, just crazy results. They've done direct correlation as far as nutrition and cancer. The list goes on and on. They've done blood pressure. They've done a lot of different research on it. And they've kind of started to look away. And even with cholesterol and heart disease and things that they normally thought were a disease of fat consumption, they're now really finding a lot of correlation between sugars, more carbohydrate based. And even though those aren't conclusive, they are finding conclusively that what it is caloric intake and body fat levels, and overall people just being heavier and consuming a massive amount of calories, regardless of where they come from, is really what's leading to a lot of these problems. So first off, fat doesn't make you fat. Fat isn't unhealthy. So now that I've kind of talked about the fact that it's not unhealthy, there's been across the board health benefits shown as far as the ketogenic dieting. What about fat making you fat? The way that the body works is you consume a certain amount of calories and they either get stored as glucose and you don't use them and then they get converted into fat, or you end up utilizing them as an energy source. What happens is your body has a certain insulin response, and in the presence of insulin, you can't burn fat. So what happens with these carb intakes is it spikes our insulin, and we have a lot of these irregularities as far as our balance of insulin. And depending on each individual and their insulin response, that alone can be a big problem, as well as just the overall amount of calories that we take in being unable to be used as energy, and they end up being stored. So when you put someone in a proper amount of calories, as well as limiting those carbs, now you prevent those insulin spikes, as well as putting them in a calorie deficit. It just makes it very easy for your body to burn those energy stores and then start tapping into those fat stores. When it runs out of energy stores, your body starts using fat stores as an energy source. The ketogenic diet actually takes it a step further, and when you're deep into that fat burning state, you release ketones and you start really manipulating your energy supply and living off of that. And it can be an abundant source of energy, like I said, I experienced for myself. So none of these bodily responses are affected at all by fat. Fat doesn't spike insulin, like glucose or complex carbs will. None of these effects are there. Again, this is mainstream media misconception for many years, and the overall population having very little understanding of basic nutrition and dietetic approaches, and just thinking, all right, I'm going to go on a low-fat diet, and fat must make you fat. So wanted to hit on that. That is absolutely not accurate, so don't worry about that. Other people stating that, starvation mode, people thinking that going on a ketogenic diet, I heard my friends said that they had a bad experience. They were just, they had these effects of, hair falling out and things like that. Anybody that says that is an effect of caloric deficit, extreme caloric deficit, or extended period of time. So that's somebody just not eating enough. It doesn't have to do with lower carb intake or fat intake or protein intake. Just not eating enough, being malnourished, is what runs into those problems. And we have our diets set to where they're definitely in an adequate range of calories for the 21 days. So that won't be a problem. Running into starvation mode is a problem based on calories, not based on carbohydrates. Another thing was sugar alcohol. So sugar alcohol is something that you want to try to just eliminate during this period of time. It's really going to be something that's gonna help you see the results and really feel better overall. But I'll kind of go into it briefly. Is with macronutrient dieting. So if you've heard of flexible dieting, if it fits your macros, that was a huge thing that kind of got thrown into there. Is for a long time, people that were advocates of that type of nutrition dietetic approach would say, look, you can eat anything you want as long as it falls into a proper amount of proteins, fats, and carbs. One of the things that was a wrench that got thrown in their game is that for many years, artificial sweeteners were considered to have no glycemic index, no insulin response. And over the last couple of years, there's been conclusive evidence that's shown that that's not true. So just because you drink a Diet Coke doesn't mean that your body isn't responding similarly to drinking sugar. It actually does. So there are certain artificial sweeteners better than others. Again, it's better just to stay away from them completely. But xylitol, maltitol, let me see, I didn't write down the other ones, but sorbitol, those are all ones that are bad. There's several others, but those are the ones that are bad. I only wrote down one of these, but erythritol is okay. Mannitol. So mannitol is also one that's okay if you were to. They have lower considered, some studies say no glycemic index response, but either way, those are going to be the better ones. So again, try to stay away from it. If you do want to have some artificial sweetener, the erythritol, the mannitol are going to be better. Okay, so now as far as how do we know when we're getting into ketosis? Do we use keto sticks? Anyone that's ever heard of keto sticks, they are a stick that based on your urine can indicate if you are in ketosis, if your body's in this deep fat burning zone and it has the presence of these ketones. Even trace elements of those ketones can be indicated through urine, and it can let you know if you're in ketosis and what level. First off, I'm going to state that they aren't absolutely necessary in this 21-day program. I don't personally use them. I can tell when I'm in ketosis based on other side effects or how I feel. But for people that are very type A, that really want to know if you're in ketosis and want to know how deep, you can pick up keto sticks anywhere, and it can really let you know if you're in there or not. Also, is if you do use the keto sticks, people will think that the deeper in ketosis you are, the more fat burning you're going to have, or it's going to be occurring. And that's definitely not, it's not a proven thing. It's a lot of the time kind of the adverse. A lot of the time it's been shown that just barely being in ketosis, your body seems to work better as far as burning those fat stores. So even if you do get the keto sticks, don't try to go on this rampage of trying to get as deep into ketosis as you can, thinking it's better, because it's not. The other side effects, before I move on, or that are going to let you know, is keto breath is one of them. It's acetone breath. So those ketones actually are something that can be excreted through your breath. So it's something that you can actually taste. It's almost like an irony kind of taste, and it does have a smell to it. So that is something to note, that some people experience it more than others. But if you're in ketosis, you're probably going to have some level of experiencing that. So you're going to have kind of that taste or feel like that's on your breath. The other thing is the change to the consistency of your urine. It can almost be kind of filmy, and that again is that process of ketosis can change that. So something to look for. All right, how long to reach ketosis? This is something that a lot of people go back and forth on, saying, hey, it took me 2 weeks to get into ketosis. It took me 3 weeks to get into ketosis. You weren't doing it right. So that's not something that should be happening. Now, most people, with most of the studies that have been done with proper macronutrient ranges, without the additives of artificial sweeteners or other things that can throw it off, it's 24 hours. You have about 12 to 16 hours that your body's going to live off of prior glucose that's from the carb consumption. So from the moment you start keto, depending on how many glycogen stores you have and how many carbohydrates and sugars you've consumed, 12 to 16 hours. From that period of time on, by hour 24, most people have started having trace elements of ketones that are detected. Other people around 36 hours. So think 24 to 36 hours before you're in it. Now, the really important thing to note about a keto-based diet is it works off of precision and consistency. Eating too much protein can throw you out of ketosis. Eating too many calories, eating the excess of carbs, all of these things can throw you out of ketosis. So while this diet is going to be something that you may feel has flexibility in the types of foods, if you're someone who likes the cheese, who likes the wings, who likes the beef, you're going to feel like, wow, this is great because I have this flexibility. And it is. But it doesn't mean that it has flexibility in those portions. If you want to have effectiveness in a ketogenic diet, precision and consistency in that precision is very important. 1 day of eating off of your diet could take you 2 days to get back into ketosis. So just remember that it takes you a day to 2 days to get in there. One meal can throw you out. Now you got to wait another 2 days to get back in there. So make sure that you guys are on top of the program, and it requires consistency. Oh, and I didn't have that noted, but real quick, a lot of people ask the difference between, they say a keto diet, isn't that the same thing in the 90s that everyone was doing, early 2000s? Everybody did that. And what they're referring to is an Atkins approach, and they are similar from the outside looking in, but they're actually very different. An Atkins diet is high protein, high fat, low carb. This is high fat, moderate protein, low carb. So the actual breakdown of entirely what you're eating is very different. Where on an Atkins approach, it'll be a lot of protein, and the way your body works and the way it processes the balance of those macronutrients is different. So even though it can look very similar, it's different than an Atkins approach. So how I had mentioned the protein can throw you out, you want to make sure to check that. Follow the diet exactly. The diet that we have, the next point I'm going to hit on, that'll kind of go in correlation with that. To make sure you don't go over your proteins, carbs, or fats, it's very simple. There is no calculation. The way that we send out these diets is you have 4 days to choose from, or 4 different diet options. So what I want you to do is look at those 4 options, and you're going to see which foods that you like off of those. Some of them also have portion sizes that vary depending on some of you guys that are on the go. Some of them have more snack options. Some of them are all meals. You'll also notice that there's 4 meals, not 6, as some of you guys may be used to eating, but it does state on there that you could break them up into smaller meals. The nutrient timing, it is okay to do that. So what you're going to want to do is pick the diet that looks best for you, or the several. If you like all 4, buy the food from all 4 and cycle through them. If you just like 2 of them, you could just alternate between the 2. There is no certain pattern that you have to follow. Some people are asking, do we have to cycle through all 4 days? No, you don't. You could pick 1 day and follow it every day. You could pick 4 and mix and match them as you want. What's important though is that you follow the day completely through, and that you don't try to mix and match meals from different days. So meal 1 from one meal option won't be comparable to meal 1 from a different day. The way that it's broken down, the macronutrients and calories are by day, not by meal. So if you pick a certain day, follow that entire day all the way through. Also is increasing your water intake. So the way that we maintain a certain base level of fluids in our body is a lot from carbohydrate intake. That allows us to retain water. So as you cut out that carbohydrate intake, it's going to flush water out and make it to where your body doesn't retain as much. I have a high fluid level of retention. You can tell by my jowls. But I don't feel a major effect from keto dieting because I do just maintain more water. Somebody who doesn't, that's going to be something that you're going to want to watch. So you guys are going to want to increase your water intake. So most of you guys think just shooting for somewhere around a gallon of water, as well as the sodium intake is something that's already on there, and it states base level is 2 grams, 2,000 milligrams. So 2 grams of sodium. And you have on there, it has chicken broth. So people ask why we have that on there. It's just an easy, fast way to get those natural electrolytes in. So for a lot of you guys that aren't going to be adding a lot of sea salt to all of your meals, you could have a couple of cups of that chicken broth, and it's going to get you in those natural electrolytes and make sure that you get those in. Also is the amount that you take in. Let me see. So you guys have potassium and magnesium. The potassium is 1,000 milligrams. Magnesium's 300. Yeah. So you have 1,000. 1 gram of potassium, 300 milligrams of magnesium. The potassium, one thing to note is not to, if you are going to take a supplement, which again, it's not totally necessary for most people, you can end up consuming it just from sea salt and from the chicken broth. But if you do want to supplement, it can help. Some people really think that they feel better getting all of their electrolytes properly in, so they make sure the supplement just ensures that. If you do end up doing the potassium, make sure that you spread it out. Don't have 1,000 milligrams of potassium in one sitting. You'd want to have it like morning, noon, and night, or at least split it up through a couple doses. So again, not totally essential. You don't have to buy supplements for this. Most of you will feel okay without it as long as you get the chicken broth or at least the 2 grams of natural electrolytes or the sodium. But you can, for the people that want to, you could purchase those and add them in just to ensure that you feel okay. Next thing that I'm gonna hit on is relative to that is keto flu. So some people have said, I've heard of the keto flu, what is that? It's basically three things: mental and physical adaptation to carbohydrate intake. So some of us just crave those carbohydrates. Other people, our body's natural response is adapting to having to go into that form of ketosis and utilize ketones as an energy source. And the other thing is electrolyte imbalances. So what I had just mentioned is making sure that you get enough of those electrolytes in. So if you're getting the 2 grams in, you're drinking enough water and you still don't feel great, you could up it to 5 grams. So I've had people that have been on the keto diet increase their electrolytes and feel great. So the first few days, even the first week, your body's kind of balancing out. Just make sure you're getting plenty of water in and plenty of your electrolytes, and you should feel okay. Let's see. Oh, okay, the weight loss too. So there's the way that I had experienced it and had many clients experience it is there's kind of these stages. The first week you'll have a pretty good drop. Not only is it your body has adapted and you start to really see a good fat drop, but also that water weight. So like I said, without those carbohydrates, you start to lose some of that water weight. So you'll have a big drop that first week. After that, you start to have more of a plateau for that next week. So what happens is your body, with the imbalance of those carbohydrates and that process, is it kind of starts to retain water. So your body starts to retain some water, and as you're losing that fat, it's replenishing with water. So even though you're losing fat, the scale won't really move because you're going to be holding that excess water. By week 3, you have that water drop. You start to see the results from the fat loss, and it ends up being kind of an up and down from there. So you'll have times that you're holding water, times that it lets go, and it kind of ends up being kind of a roller coaster. So this being a 3-week approach gives you the ability to go through those 3 stages, and by the end of the week, the 3rd week, the goal is for you guys to see how it worked, how you feel, and if it's gonna be a good approach for you. So kind of think of this as a jump start. This is gonna be a way for you to experience it and see if it's something that you like. Next one is one that we're gonna get hit with in private messages, so I thought I'd hit on it here, is pooping. So I end up talking to most of you guys about your poop, so I'll hit on it now. First thing is gonna be hydration. Make sure if you guys aren't having regular bowel movements that you guys are drinking plenty of water. That's the first thing that's gonna help. Psyllium husk, so just making sure that you have enough fiber. If you're not having regular movements, add in the fiber. The other thing is the addition of coconut oil. We could switch up some of the fats and add more of the coconut oil. That helps with regularity. Or at last resort, if you want a natural way to have a bowel movement, aloe as a supplement. Aloe pills can help with that as well, so that you're not having to take a chemical to do so. Also, some of the people have been asking me about different science and things to look into. I can give you guys different links and sources, but there's a good book, The Ketogenic Diet by Lyle McDonald, and he ends up having a pretty good thorough book on the science behind it, sources a lot of different things and goes through. So if you guys really end up liking this and want some more information on it, The Ketogenic Diet by Lyle is a good book. Also, once this is over, if you guys experience good results, but you don't feel as much energy, you don't feel like you can perform as well, maybe you want to have more of a paleo type approach, or you're a vegan, that all of those things can be worked into advanced approaches of ketogenic dieting. So there's cyclic ketogenic dieting, where you have certain days that you rotate in and out of ketosis so that you have more performance effects from that. There's full vegan approaches, there's paleo approaches, there's all these different more advanced approaches that can combine these two things, as well as fasting. So the one that I had tried after the keto was an intermittent fasting with the ketogenic, and that actually worked really well for me. I don't really feel a major appetite in the morning anyways. By the time I got home, I was hungry. I got to eat larger portions, and it worked really well. So either way, there's several different approaches. If you like certain aspects of this, but you're not sure because there's other things you may want, there may be an advanced approach. Make sure to talk to one of the trainers and see how we could try to make it to where this approach could work in, and you could get to have your cake and eat it too if it's something that you liked, but you wanted something else out of it also. So those are most of the notes that I had. Again, just to kind of recap, make sure that you guys are getting in all of your electrolytes, drinking all of your water, and very accurately following the diet. You guys just want to make sure that you guys are on top of it 100%. You want to give it that 21 days to really see if this is going to be an approach that you love or not. If you guys have individual changes that you want to make, customized diet approaches, those are going to be things that you're going to want to reach out to one of your trainers for, or any of the individuals at the gym, so they could set you up with a coaching program. To hit these macronutrients, it's going to take a trainer a fair amount of time to build out a program for you. So it isn't something they can do on the fly. If you just say, hey, I don't want to eat these foods, how do you throw this in there? It really is not that simple. If you guys try to sit down and do it yourself and try to hit the certain macronutrients, get enough of your electrolytes in, not get too much protein or too much carbs, you're going to notice that it's time consuming and hard to be able to do that. So have a little mercy on the trainers if you're asking them to just swap foods out or do things for you. It's not that easy. If you do like this approach, they can help you with it, but you would have to sign up for a coaching program because it's going to take them time to build it out. So this 21 day jump start approach gives you those 4 different meal options. It's enough variety for each of you guys to find days that you like. Give it that 21 days, see if it's something that you really love, and then at that point we can figure out an approach for you guys. So I hope that you guys are excited, that you guys have the meals that you guys, or the days that you like, picked out. Go to the store, get that food picked up, and let's see what we can do over the next 21 days.